Welcome back to the Real Talk Corner podcast, where we dive deep into personal journeys and topics that can inspire and transform us on a mind, body, soul, and spirit level. I'm your host, Ariana Gutierrez, and today we truly have a special guest, Daniel Jackson, who has an extraordinary ability to communicate with angelic spirits. Daniel is also the host of an enlightening podcast, Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson. In this episode, we will dive deep into Daniel's unique gift, exploring how he connects with angelic spirits, the profound messages he receives, and the impact his abilities have on those he helps. Join us as we uncover the mysteries beyond the veil and gain insights into the spiritual realm with Daniel Jackson. You won't want to miss this fascinating and uplifting conversation. The Real Talk Corner. We back. We in the building. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, fighting my way through the darkness where the wicked don't rest. Conscious aware, truth I dare, shield tied to my chest. My tenacity can put these motherfuckers to the test. High priestess of fire, alchemistic desire. I say manifest and shit, even when I am tired. You can call me amazing, by the bricks I be laying, but you'll never call me lazy, cause my vice are devastating. In the league of my own, spitting real talk energy. I know a little something about a thing called synergy. This is so ready to throw a sun and masses awaken me. Listen up, cause we about to set your mind, body, and soul free. All right, welcome to another episode of the Real Talk Corner. Today I'm here with my special guest, spirit medium Daniel, and I'm going to have him just tell you guys a little bit about himself before we get into our topic.
Well, my name is Daniel Jackson. I call myself Spirit Medium Daniel. I don't call myself psychic because when you use the word psychic, people walk up to you and say, "What am I thinking now?" And I say, "I don't know what you're thinking, but everyone else thinks you're a moron." So let it go. Yeah, see, I see dead people, but I don't just see dead people. No one's really dead. They're just their energy continues on. But I don't just see people. I see people, dogs, cats, horses, cows, fish, other beings from other worlds. I see all kinds of things all day long. It never turns off. It never goes away. But I've been seeing spirit ever since I was 3 years old. But I didn't find out I was a medium until right before I was turning 50 years old, and now it's been almost 8 years now since that.
Oh, wow. Wow. I was going to say that, if you wanted to share just how the experience has started. And I know that it's really weird when you've been seeing since you're a kid and then no one really tells you what's going on, or you think it's make believe, or maybe you're seeing things, or maybe you're just your imagination. So how was that for you when you're going through this as a kid and discovering and seeing these things?
I didn't go through it alone because we lived in an area in New Jersey, in this town that had right on the Delaware River, and there was a park there. We called it the Monument because it had this big, huge cement monument statue thing there, and all these cannon and all that stuff there. Because this is where the Hessians fought, and there was a hospital on that grounds as well. So there was lots of death there. My sister told me a couple of years ago that they did a big dig there and they found hundreds of bodies all buried at one place. So of course that's going to happen. They're not going to just do it one at a time. But
Right.
my whole family was witnessing this at the same time, and so that made it easier because everyone was aware of it. So none of us were really scared. My mom and dad, my two brothers, and my sister were all witnessing it at the same time. It wasn't until my mom and dad and I moved down to Delaware, and when that happened, no one else was really seeing it too much uh, as far as anywhere else. But I just continued to see everywhere, um, and it just continued on from my teens to 20s, 30s, 40s, and then right before I was turning 50. It was right before I was turning 50 when the major occurrence happened, because
Mhm.
I've seen them throughout my life, but you just get used to it. Like I always explain to
Right.
people, it's like when when you're kids and your mom and dad feed you green beans, and then 30 years later you like green beans. Well, you get used to it. So, but this other occurrence that happened was my wife went away on vacation for 2 weeks out to California to visit her daughter. And then in my home, I saw everything you could ever imagine in a horror movie going on in my home for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. What do you know? Did you get to find out what was going on in your home?
um, yes, in a sense where I had a paranormal group come to the house.
Mhm.
And they did all kinds of experiments. They put these, like, little boxes out with lights on them and little wires sticking off of them, and, they did videotaping. They would walk around and ask questions. Uh, but there was one thing that they did when they put the boxes around, and I said, "What's that?" Because and he said, "Well," he rubbed his hand on my chair and he waved his hand above them, and they all lit up, made this bloop, noise, and I was like, "Oh," "The spirit put off static electricity." I said, "Oh, okay, I get it now." And then, so they asked me, uh, "Where do you have, the most activity?" I said, "Where do I don't have the most activity? It's throughout the whole entire house." So,
Right.
I he said, "Well, let's go in the bedroom." So, they had all these boxes set up around the doorways, and I walked into the bedroom, and as soon as I did, every one of those boxes lit up. They just bloop, and I turned around and looked at them like, "What's going on?" And they looked at me like, "We don't know." They walked through, and nothing happened.
Mm,
So they had me go into the one guy said, "Let's go into the closet. I feel drawn to go in there." And we went in there. I walked in, and then he walked in, and immediately after him walking in, he started to feel ill, like he was going to get really sick. And so
mhm.
he ran out and he sat on the bed, and I said, "You okay?" And he said, "Yeah." And then we went back in, and then it happened to him again. And then when we went back out, and he looked at me and said, "How come you're not getting sick?" I said, "I don't know. You're the expert. You tell me." So but then it was later on in the evening, they had me lay down in bed, because this was happening at nighttime, and I laid down in bed, and they wanted me to pretend I was sleeping, and then
Right.
they brought this, spirit box in, and, so when they did that, they turned it on, and it started spitting out words. It said, "Wendy, Michael, Paul, Helen, unique, light, special, energy." One time it said the word road, like a street said road, and when it did that, a car went right past my house, and but it was when they started asking questions, that's when it got a little crazy because they asked questions, they timed it for 10 minutes. It
Mhm.
lasted exactly 10 minutes, no more, no less, and,
Right.
one I remember one of the questions they asked, they said, "Are you here to harm Daniel?" And then that, computer voice came through and said, "No, we are not here to harm Daniel. We love Daniel. We love Daniel's light. Daniel is the light." When it said Daniel is the light, I was like, "What the heck is that supposed to mean?" I mean,
Right.
but there was so much that was going on,
Mm,
but they when they got done that conversation, they went out in the living room. This is like at the end of the everything,
mm,
and, I went out there and they're all huddled up, and I said to my wife, "What's going on?" She said, "I don't know." She said, "This is kinda crazy," and so they come out of the huddle. I said, "So" I was excited because like, the best part about that experiences was they were witnessing it too,
right.
because I mean, everyone else, you know, around my home, they really never said much to me because they probably thought that they were living next to poltergeist in their home, but the unfortunate part is they were.
Right.
But they said to me, they said I said, "You get all that?" I mean, did I was excited, and he's like, "Well, Mr. Jackson, there's an issue." And I said, "What's the issue?" He said, "Well, whenever we use this box, we can get it to spit out a couple of words." I said, "Okay, but it was saying more." He said, "Well, that's the issue." And I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "It never says sentences and not that many." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Well, we have to get this figured out." I mean, they were
Right.
walking around taking pictures of me and then taking pictures of me with someone else,
Mhm.
or just someone else by themselves. But every time they took a picture of me, I had 15 or 20 light orbs completely surrounding me. When they took a picture of somebody else, nothing.
Right.
So it was, but they were supposed to come back and do a big reveal. They never came back. They were supposed to come back 2 weeks later. It took me 6 weeks in order for me to get a hold of them, and by the time I did, the leader of the group, I said, "When are you coming back?" He said, "We're not." I said, "Why not?" He said, "I can't get the group back together." He said, "Once we got on your front lawn, everybody quit." They've been doing this for 5, 6 years, and I said, "Well, can you come back?" He said, "No, I don't feel comfortable coming back into your house." He said, "Usually it takes 10 or 15 homes to get that kind of information. We don't get it from 1."
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot. There was a lot going on that they I mean, it wasn't harmful,
Right.
but it was just a lot.
Right.
Um, but then after that so he wasn't gonna help me, and I was like, "Well, maybe you ought to get out of this business, buddy, because 'cause you're not helping me or anybody else." He said, "Well, yeah, I'm not doing it anymore because I guess it scared him." But, I sought out 5 mediums, and, 'cause I was trying to find different ones, and I found 5 of them. None of them knew each other, but every one of them told me the same story about me. But it was
Right.
one in particular that described everything to me. She wanted me to come to her show because she said, "I want you to see how I do it." And I was like, "Huh?" So, when we showed up yeah, 'cause
Right.
I didn't know what any of this was. I didn't had no inclination of me being a medium or anything. I just knew I see spirit all the time, not and hear them. So, my wife and I buy tickets to her show. I didn't tell this lady I was coming. And as
Mhm.
soon as we walk in the door, she's on the stage about 100 feet away from us, and she stands I open the door, and she's there, and she's talking to somebody, and she immediately does this, and she looks over at me, and then she follows me through the room, and as I sit down, and I look at my wife, and I was like, "The hell?" She's like, "That was creepy." I said, "Yeah, but" so she ends up reading 8 people on the show. I was one of them,
Mhm.
um, but it was at the end of the show that my wife and I went down there and I said, "Hi, my name's Daniel Jackson." She's like, "Oh, I talked to you on the phone." I said, "Yeah." And then she made me feel like I was 7 years old because she looked at me like a teacher and she said, "Don't move, don't go anywhere. I want you to stay here and wait till everybody leaves. You and I need to have a talk." And I was like, "Oh, crap," 'cause,
Right.
yeah. But it was after that, she said, "I saw you come into the room. I could feel you on the outside of that door." I said, "Yeah, my wife and I thought that was kinda creepy." She said, "I know you see a lot of spirit." And I said,
Mhm.
"Lady, it's like being in a room with 1,000 people, except more keep coming in, and nobody leaves." And she
Mm.
said, "That many?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Yeah." She said, "I know you have an ability to see them, but you're seeing so many because they're coming to you." And I said, "Why would they be coming to me?" And she said, "I could see when you came through that door, spirits see you, they see your body frame as this is the way I'm explaining it, that they see your body frame, but they see a light inside of you, and that is your soul inside of you." And I
Mm.
was and w so when she said something similar to that, I said, "Okay." She said, "I don't see your body frame." I said, "What do you see?" She said, "You look like a light bulb, like a figured light bulb
Mm.
walking around everywhere." And I was like, "Okay, what's that supposed to mean?" She said, "Well, that's my spirit coming to you like a moth to a flame." I said, "Like a beacon of light." I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
like how so?" She said, "You look like a beacon of light, just a light ball." I said, "Alright." She said, "Well, that's why they're coming to you because they believe that you're the light into heaven."
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh, what do I do with that?" And she said, "You need to have a sit down talk with God and decide what you're gonna do and where you're gonna go with this." I said, "What do you mean, where am I gonna go with it?" She said, "Oh, Daniel, you're just an untrained medium. You just haven't learned how to use this." She said,
Right.
"But you need to have a talk with him to see if you're actually going to use it, if you're going to move forward or not." And I was like, "Okay." But she said, "Yeah." I looked at her with her like, "I don't know," and she said, "I know you don't want this to go away." I said, "Well, it's been my entire life." She said, "Well, then you need to have a talk with him and make a decision." So that's what I did. Eventually, that's what I did. And then once I we went home and I told my wife, I said to my wife, I said, how am I gonna have a talk with God about" She said, "How do you talk to him any other time?" I
Right.
said, "Yeah." I said, "So I went in, had a talk with him, and then everything basically changed the very next day." And because I was seeing green and red mist pouring out of the walls and skulls floating around with red eyes and fangs, and I saw the Hat Man appear in my basement. I saw these clouds coming out of the ceiling that were red and green and yellow and blue, and then they had red with black stripes, green with black stripes, blue. It was so much going on. 7-foot skeletons walking around my house. It's just crazy. But now that has calmed down. But I still see everything. I just understand what everything is now.
Right, right. So you've put it into like the categories and what it means to you, and
What it means to everybody. I found out through that process that I have archangels surrounding me. I communicate with archangels. They are not men with wings and shields and swords by any mean, but they may show that to someone, so to make them feel at ease. But they show their true selves to me. They touch me on my face for yes and no answers. When I get a yes, it feels like a finger going across my eyebrow or some other place on my forehead. And then when I get a no answer, it feels like a tear running down my face. I'm in complete and total communication with them all the time. So I have thoughts go through my mind, they answer it. Or if I just think something, they answer it for me. It never turns off, it never goes away. In the beginning it was 2 touches by 2 archangels, and now it's 67. I get 67 different touches on my face for yes answers, or when they're alerting me of something, or they touch me right here in the corner of my eye when danger's around so I can get out of there. And they also put thought into my mind as well. And in the beginning, I was getting this thought maybe 5% of the time out of my day, and now it's 90%.
right.
So what that means is I'm only 10% me now.
How was that experience though? Just opening up to even receiving angel energy. Like, how did that feel when you realized, like, well, I'm connecting to angels?
It's not like the TV show, Touched by an Angel. How do I? So when I explain this to even other mediums, who tell me that they are communicating with angels, I ask them what the experience is like, and once they tell me, I know they're full of shit, because being touched by the angel is not what you think it is. Okay, especially an archangel. This is the right hand of God. This is a higher energy that no one else. So when they touch me, at nighttime, they were touching me so that I could see them, hear them, feel them, communicate with them better.
Mhm,
Because they had to manipulate my soul, which also manipulated my body, and because they tell me the body is very fragile,
mm,
it is. So they would touch me, and I would feel these little cold touches all over my body, and then the very next day, I'd be in the bathroom, and it would be coming out of both ends, and that would go on for 2 or 3 hours, and then I would start to get my energy back after a couple of days, and then it would happen again 2 weeks later. So it would go on twice a month. And
mm,
then that happened for 3 years. So when I said yes to, like, God saying, "Okay, I'll do this, and this is what you want me to do," that's what I was saying yes to. I was having to say yes to them fixing me and basically, purging me so that I could see them, hear them, feel them, communicate with them better. That's
right.
what it's like. So I had a girl I did an interview one time, and she said, "Oh, I was touched by an angel. It feels like a feather." I said, "No, it doesn't." I I have to I seemingly have to educate people all the time. And why do I have to educate them? Because no one else is going through this, and they just don't know what the hell they're talking about. They just don't. There's
Yeah.
there's no rainbows and frickin' unicorns. This isn't, everything is love and light, and there's for animals, there's no such thing as a rainbow bridge. There just isn't. Souls
Mm,
are souls are souls. No one is exempt from either going someplace or not going someplace. No
mm.
one, nothing. People just they don't get it, but I'm here to try to teach them.
Right, right. I did say that. Like, one of my things, and I am a believer, and it took me a while to really step into believing. But one of my things in the beginning was it did irritate me to see the mediums. They were just always everyone's loved one is like, oh yeah, they went to heaven, they're good. It
No,
was
they didn't.
and it was like my experience, because I can open that door, I just don't want to. Like, there's a that whole thing of making your decision on whether or not you want to or not, I didn't
Right.
want to. From what I saw was like people who weren't at peace, people who weren't at rest. And I would tell people, like, why am I tapping into these people who are not in a good place, or irritated, mad, or going through all this, or stuck, right? And
Because you're closer to it, because you're here where that low energy realm is. If you were about to go to, leave this place, you'd be closer to both of them at the same time, but you're closer to here because this is where the low energy realm is. And
right.
and we still have pain, anger, sorrow, grief, guilt, and anguish, as well as those spirit that are there still have it as well because they choose to not go into heaven and they stayed here and still have all that pain and anger, sorrow, grief, guilt, all that stuff. So that's why you're opening up that because it's closer to everyone.
Mm. Yeah, no one could ever answer that.
Yeah, like if you look at your walls behind you, what color are your walls?
They're like, it's not really tan. It's like a sand. It's,
Okay, so to you, they're sand color. To me, it's that color, but I also see a mist of blue in it. But I also see that mist of blue in you and everything else. I haven't seen it myself. When I see that mist of blue, and that's just in my regular vision, it doesn't go away. That
mm,
is the veil. So that's how close we are to it, but not everyone else can see it. It's in my everyday. It
right.
doesn't but it doesn't go away, and it's when I'm in a dark room. I mean, I can focus in on it, and I can take a look and see what's around you. Oh, there's
Mm,
a man standing right behind you on your left, shoulder. Uh, his name is Barry. Barry's been here since, 1742, and, oh, he was murdered. No big deal. Anyway, so, when he's just here, so that's just someone who is here on the earthbound side. But I I get so upset with the ghost hunters and all that stuff because they don't know what they're doing either. They don't know that they're opening up a portal and they don't know how to shut it and they don't know what's coming through. It's
right.
dangerous. This
Right.
is it can be for good things, but it's dangerous at the same time. And people, are playing the board games, the Ouija board games and all that
Right.
bullshit.
Right.
Yeah, they don't know what the hell they're doing, and they don't. The thing about the Ouija board is whoever actually owns the Ouija board, if something negative comes through, it stays with that person.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, but, uh, but yeah, the people just they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see into that realm all the time. And again, it doesn't so you don't have to go anywhere to find spirit. You can go to Walmart and find spirit. They're everywhere. You just and it's not again, like I said, there's no one exempt from not going to what we call this low energy realm or earthbound
Mhm.
or into heaven. I go into a veterinary's office with my wife and I close my eyes and I see dogs and cats and everything just walking around. I see deer
Right.
walking around all the time and horses walking around, cows, they're grazing. Why would
Mhm.
they be grazing? Because when you stand up out of your body, you're still you. And they're
Mhm.
doing exactly what they were doing before they were gone. So,
Right.
they're everywhere, but, it's just when people start dabbling things that they don't understand because they have a fascination with it. If you
Right.
don't know what you're doing, stop doing it.
Yeah.
Seriously, because you
Yeah.
don't know I just had to help somebody who a friend of mine who has this ability. I outed her with it because she didn't realize what was going on, and then years later, I kept telling her, if you're gonna do this, you gotta work on it." Well, she only dabbled in it. She didn't really work on it. She
Mm,
ended up doing what she thought was a meditation, ended up astral projecting to the deep dark realm of the earthbound, this low energy, and she felt like she said, I felt like I was falling into a hole, and I was like trying to. I said, you were going into a hole because you didn't know what the hell you were doing, and because of that experience, now she's having all kinds of medical issues from all the negative residual energy that she picked up by going to a place she was not meant to be.
right.
And now and the doctors, she said, the doctors can't tell me what's going on. I said, because they don't know.
Yeah.
I said, because if you'd have practiced and did it the right way and did everything that I told you to do, then you
Mhm.
wouldn't have this problem today. So I, I'm always constantly having to teach people and try to get them uh, to do what they should be doing and not just playing around with it.
Right. I do feel that, from because I walked into spirituality with like really no knowledge of anything. And I do
Right.
understand what you're saying about how you literally can walk around and like there's all types of information. It's contradicting. You don't know who to believe,
Yeah.
who to trust, who's the right one, who knows the information, who doesn't. And you're really lost trying to learn this stuff.
Oh
And
yeah, there's all the crazy practitioners telling everybody out there, "Oh, you have a soulmate." Well, a soulmate's not what you think it is. A soulmate is just another soul back at home that you are very good friends with back at home. I mean, we're all related to each other anyway. And then you come here and you both show up at the same time. It could be a mom and dad, could be your best friend, could be a dog or a cat. It's not necessarily someone you're going to fall in love with, but these practitioners want everybody to believe that. Or I see them on Facebook now. Oh, I'll draw a picture and this is the guy that you're going to marry because he's your soulmate. No, it doesn't work that way. Or the big one I love. Oh, I have a guardian angel following me around. Really? So he only picks up like one thing here and one thing there. I mean, why wouldn't he just guard you from your entire life? And
right,
and the thing about if you had a guardian angel following you around, guarding you from everything, what would you learn?
right,
Nothing. It's so much BS out there, but people believe it because
right.
it's brought to you by TV and movies and all this other practitioners because they want you to come to them so they can get your money. That's what they want.
Man, I've been saying this shit, so you guys hear it from someone else. I really say this stuff because that's what I've seen and what just made me really take a step back from a lot of things spiritual wise and just really think about where I wanted to be and where I wanted to fall into because I love helping people. But that is,
Me too.
again, when you step into this realm, there is a lot of doors and windows and portals you can open and not
Yeah.
understand what you're doing and can potentially mess
Or
things up.
or they even use the power words. I'm doing a video series, and because I'm do a podcast myself called Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson, me, and but the one of the videos I'm doing is called the unintuitive. These are
Mm,
the people who say they are doing something for you that they're really like. Oh, I'm an intuitive business strategist. No, your intuition you take the first two letters of intuition. What is it? IN, in, because your intuition is within you and it comes from you and it is meant just for you. No one else is to use their intuition to guide you spiritually because they're not guiding you spiritually. That intuition is for themselves. And they're, oh, I'm going to change your whole business strategy with my intuition. Bullshit. It doesn't work that way. It's by the one and for the one. Or you have the people go, I'm going to clear your home. I'm going to come in and I'm going to wave some sage around, and that's
right.
going to make all the negative. Well, I got news for you, people. You better listen real quickly. Sage does not work. Sage, you're burning something, trying to make a negative energy go away. You're burning something to an energy that is no longer in this realm. It doesn't have a body. It doesn't have lungs. It doesn't smell, and it doesn't breathe. So the only thing you're doing is when you're burning that stuff is setting off your fire alarms. If that were not the truth, then how come all the forest fires in the world haven't made all the negative energies go away? Because it doesn't work. The only thing that makes that go away is putting positive energy out there, putting positive intentions out there, having a home filled full of love. Because the one thing you don't hear about these haunted houses is the other 1/10 of that 10% thing that's going on there is the person who is having that experience. They don't tell you the story that that person's a piece of crap
Mm,
because negative people attract negative energies.
right.
Negative energies need negative energy in order to get through this that realm and feel while feeling good because all energies need energy. That's why we're around each other. That's why we like to hug each other because it's an energy transfer. And when you get this energy, it makes you feel good. If you don't have the energy, it's like walking around like what we would feel when we're nauseous. And if they don't get that energy, that's how they feel. And they need it all the time. So they have to have it as well as other energies have to have it all the time too. But the ones that are in heaven, that place is full of energy. That
Mm.
other realm is not. So they have to seek out and find it. But uh, but yeah, it's just I'm telling you, pe people just don't get it. You
Now,
just
I
don't.
will say that there are so many different belief systems. So I have a little bit of different belief systems from you. So
Sure.
a little bit is going to differ, and that's fine. But I do understand what you're saying of the facade of just being able to clear or just cleanse in certain ways and not worry about your energy. And
Right.
you can
It can
stage
be
all day and
done.
still be a piece of shit, you know?
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, I mean, oh, I'll come and clear your house, but if the person doesn't change, if
Right,
the environment doesn't change, nothing's gonna change. You can get all the crystals you want, you can get all the
right,
symbolic tattoos you want, you can get all the, pendulums and all this other stuff, but that's not gonna change if you don't change, and
right.
that's where you have to go deep down inside you and get rid of all this negativity in your life, because all you're doing at that point with that other stuff is getting a false sense of protection, a false sense of
Yep.
"I'm okay and I'm raising my vibrations." No, you're not. With everything that's going on out in the world and you're susceptible all to it all the time. As soon as you walk out of your house and you're flooded with all that, you think your vibrations are going up high? You better think again. They're not.
Yeah, it definitely is a um I've said this too, where, that thing you can buy all of these tools that are outside of you, but that part of sitting with self, getting within you, really looking
Right.
in the mirror, really becoming accountable. And that's my go-to is like we're always the common denominator. You're the common denominator in
Right.
your life. You start
Within.
there, within changes without, right?
Yes.
Outside of you.
Absolutely.
Outside of
Because
you shows the chaos that's within you, right? So that's kind of that
absolutely. You
mirror
have
effect
an you
going
have
on.
you have a beautiful white light internal compass that's inside of you that is trying to guide you, but you need to learn to listen, trust, and follow through. Every time you get an answer when you wake up in the morning and you say, "Oh, I need to go to the mall today," where do you think that's coming from? That's not coming from you. That's coming from your spirit guides, which is coming into your soul and trying to guide you. Those spirit guides are getting that information from what we would call heaven, and it's being brought to you, but when you listen to the world telling you not to have any trust and faith within yourself to do anything, and you talk yourself out of things all the time,
Right.
then why do you think you keep coming back over and over again? God doesn't punish us. We punish ourselves. You come back because you haven't fulfilled your purpose. We're here to learn lessons and fulfill a purpose. Our purpose is we're here to help each other just for the sake of helping, not because you can, but because you should, in a way where you're going to help someone to do something they can't do for themselves, or you're helping them to figure it out, or you're helping in like a God's creation type way. Like if you're driving down the car in your car and you see a cat in the middle of the road and you're going to go over, oh, let me kill it. You get that cat out of the road and you take it to the owner, or you find a vet or something like that. That's fulfilling your purpose. It's not, if you think it's this big grandiose story thing like, like Kim Kardashian, oh, my purpose. No, it's not. That's your ego. Okay. Let it go. But I
Right.
mean, if you go get the cat, great. But if you look at the cat and go, "Oh, I can't help that cat because I got to get. I'm late for work." If you're late for work, get up earlier. It's
Mhm.
that simple. But it's these little things that are going to help you get it your golden ticket to go home and stay home. The average time between that people come back here is between 26 and 29 times. If you die under the age of 30 years old, you come back 8 years later. If you die over the age of 30 years old, you come back 80 years later. So your lifespan actually as a human may be 80 years, but you won't come back until 80 years after that. So it'd be a total of 160 years. People are here for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. They just
Mm.
haven't figured that out. But they get into the bad part is they get into that whole, oh my past life. I want to know, well, maybe I was connected to a king or a queen. And I always tell them, oh, so you want to be connected to somebody who stood on the backs of other people who tortured them and murdered them so they could have money, control, and power. You think that's fucking noble? Because I don't think it's noble at all. Let it
Right.
go. Learn your lives, your previous lives were important when you were living them. They are
Yeah.
no longer important now because why? Because you're here again. Because your last one, you didn't get your purpose fulfilled, and you had to come back and do this all over again. So if it was so important, if it was so important, you wouldn't be here now. You'd be
Yeah.
home. That's what you would be. People don't get that. They
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 don't.
just
I
they got
actually do past life regressions. So I understand. And I was someone who walked into spirituality very overly concentrated on past lives. And what I explain to people now is that in the beginning of my path, I realized I was still trying to find some place to fit in. I was still trying to find a home.
Sure.
And we don't realize we're doing that. Even with the past lives, you're trying to find something to connect you somewhere
Right.
because you're out of place.
That's what
And
life is about, though. Life is about God. There's that term that says, God bless you. Well, he did. He put you here, but he wants us to figure out the rest.
right. Because it's
There
like
is a,
we would
you,
we would we would remember the past lives if we were supposed to. There's a reason why
right.
we don't.
Right. And that there's another part of past life. Again, these unintuitive people, the ones that tell you, "Oh, I'll get rid of all your past life trauma." No,
Yeah.
you won't.
No.
You leave if you leave here and
Mm,
you go home. Once you cross that threshold, all that past life trauma goes away from your life. You
mm,
don't come back into a new body dragging your old shit back with you. You
mm,
have the memories of it because your soul is here to learn about the experience. The soul does not feel pain. It experiences the pain and learns about it, but it doesn't actually feel pain. It
mm,
just it takes it's like it's that's what your memories are. Your memories don't go in your brain. Your brain doesn't do anything except make all the little parts work. Everything about you, all your existences and your memories, everything is your soul. And it's all memories. And when it leaves here, it goes back home. All the pain of it goes away, and you go back to being a white light loving soul. But when you have to come back, you don't bring it back. It's
mm,
gone already. This is a new life,
mhm,
new experiences, a
right.
new thing to figure out.
Mm,
But people, but again, you have those practitioners. Oh, I'll help you get rid of it. They're full of shit.
yeah.
They're taking your money.
Yeah.
Walk away.
I don't believe anyone can clear somebody else's karma. I,
No, they can't.
I again, I do work with past life, but it's in the regression. So it's the hypnosis, guiding someone into it.
Just
But
like
I do,
a
I do
person.
feel like people want to be important. That's why they want to go. That's why they want to see if they were with a king or an emperor or something
Right.
like that, because they want to be like, oh, I was Cleopatra. And it's like most
Mhm.
past lives are very monotonous, very
Yeah, because
boring.
right, because 50,000 people have all been Cleopatra. No,
Right.
they wanna be somebody famous. You know what? We're all good enough.
Right.
You're all good enough to be anything you wanna be. You just have to have trust and faith within yourself to
Right.
do that. But fame and fortune and all that doesn't bring you mean you're wonderful. You could be a king who's killing people. Do you think that's nice? You
Right.
wanna be related to that? Do you think that's nice? They
Right.
all have power and control, everybody, and
Right.
unfortunately, the reason they have all that power and control is because we relinquished the power to them a long time ago. We just need to learn to take the power back. But,
Right.
uh, but yeah, it's not all that stuff's not important. Those lives were important when
Right.
you were living them. It's not
Right.
important now because you get the people who like Ancestry.com and all that crap. Oh,
Mm.
well, I have relatives who are from England and Ireland, so that means I get to wear a kilt now. No, you don't. And the thing about that is they look up the person. Oh, well, look how this person looks similar to me. Oh, it's 100 years ago. Do you know
Oh.
why? Because it was you.
Mm.
So in other words, we are our own ancestors. Some of them go home and stay home.
Right.
Most of them don't because you have to keep coming back over and over again. You're from all over this freaking world.
Right. Right.
So, you know what you are? You're a human being. And we all live on the same planet, and no one's going anywhere anytime soon. So, we better start to get along with each other before we annihilate each other. That's what we need to focus on, not
Right.
how I can raise my vibrations or who I'm related to. You're related to everybody because when you go home and people always ask, well, am I going to see my mom and dad? You're going to see everybody because you're related to everybody. You are connected to everything. You just can't experience that here because you're living the human experience and you're not meant to know what it's like to live in heaven. Because if you did, you wouldn't want to be here.
Mm.
You're
Yeah.
meant to be here because you're meant to learn your lessons and fulfill your purpose. I mean, if life was meant to be easy, what would be the point of living? If you were given everything in your lifetime, you wouldn't appreciate the things that you do have. Prayer is not for asking for more than you're supposed to have. Prayer is for giving thanks for what you do have.
Yeah. Gratitude is definitely key. Um,
Absolutely.
I like how you were bringing up the purpose because as someone who like myself who's a spiritual advisor and a healer, that's the biggest thing that people are like, what am I going to be? Or what's my purpose?
Well,
And,
they think their purpose is what we would call an occupational choice.
right,
Oh, well, if I'm gonna be a doctor, no. You're gonna fulfill your purpose by being one thing, human, and everybody can do it. I get it's like walking up so somebody walks up to you and says, "Excuse me, miss, I'm lost. Can you help me find my way?" Well, and you're gonna do one of the 2 decisions. You're gonna go, "Ah, I hate people. Get out of my face." Or you're gonna say, "Oh, well, you know what? You make a left and you go down here. Oh, yeah, as a matter of fact, I gotta go that way. How about you get in your car, you follow me, and I'll wave you off." It's
right,
that simple. That's what your
right,
purpose is. But if you think it's this big grandioso thing,
right,
the people that do the most in this world, you don't ever hear of because they don't
never,
need to be pat on the back for it.
right,
Everyone else who needs that recognition, that's
yeah,
your ego. So
right,
once you do something and then bring your ego into it, you just canceled out what you just did.
yeah.
That's what God wants us to figure out, but we're not doing a very good job.
It's true. And I say this, I'm like, you have to remember that these things that we think are small and insignificant, like you just said, the person at the store, the person that's at line, the person at the gas station, or the person who cut us off and we just, laugh about it instead of flipping them off and chasing them
Right.
down. All of those things are these things that ripple effect. They
Yeah,
actually do more,
they
buying that
do.
person's coffee in line, that's behind you and you don't even know them. All of those things are very small.
They
And you don't need a pat and a gold star for doing it. You're just
no.
choosing to be kind. That what you said about because we're all connected is so fucking deep. We are all connected. So when I'm looking at you, I'm not looking at this person who's not connected to me. Yeah, we don't have this human blood, connection, but spiritually we are all
Yes,
connected as one. And that's the whole point of this, to look at somebody with love versus with, oh, we're different. And this is, I don't believe what you believe, so now we have to be harsh and we have to argue and we have to do all
right,
of these other crazy things. And it's
right.
like, no, we don't need any of that to
And we
exist.
get taught that by the people who wanna tell you how to live your life the way they want you to live it and give them 10%.
Ex-
How do they know about 10% that long ago? Because the people who wrote those scrolls and books and all that stuff, they were kings and queens. It says in that main book, "You must obey your rulers."
right,
Who else would put that except for rulers?
right.
Right. God didn't write that.
Right. I always tell this to people, and regardless to if you look at it as God or source or universe, however,
Yeah,
right? The bottom line is when you look at it, that energy that's all knowing, all creation, all love, right? Why would it ever sit here and chastise us in that way, right? Why would it ever be like, I'm going to condemn
correct,
you in that
correct.
way when and we will never really even understand that energy. I tell people all the time, we'll never even understand it until we
Correct,
leave, right? Until we leave.
correct,
And then we go back
right,
to spirit and
right,
understand. But
because
as a human, we don't understand that. We're
correct.
just,
God, neither God nor Jesus is gonna punish you or send you to a place of punishment for
right,
something he gave you, which is free will. He gave you free will so that you can make all the choices that you need to do for
right,
your life. Now, again, him being that omnipotent being, being all powerful and all knowing, don't you think he would know if we were going to make some bad choices? He would have put a limit on those choices, but he
right,
didn't. He didn't so that we can make all the choices. And the choices that may be good for you may not be good for me, and mine may not be good for you, yeah, you as well as they are for me. That they are, but we want to put blame into everything. We
right.
want to play the blame game all the he's not
But
good because there's no such place as hell. There is this lower energy realm, but you're going there by your own choice too. So he's not God, God is not going God doesn't judge me.
mm,
God enables me to be me because I have to be in order to get through this world because everyone has a different perception in this world.
mm,
God doesn't want me to prove anything to him, nor
right,
does he feel I need to prove myself to anyone else.
right,
People think I do
right.
because God gave me my worth,
Hmm.
not anyone else.
Yeah,
And that's what people need to know. He this energy is trying to get us to figure it out for ourselves.
right,
That's what he wants us to do. He wants us to learn. I mean, we fulfill our purpose throughout
Right.
our lives, but we don't do it as much as
Right.
Source would like us to do. So he knows he can keep bringing us back over and over again because, I mean, no one lives to be 150 years old. Besides, at that point, it's going to hurt to pee. So he knows he can bring us back and do this all over again. That's why you come back because you haven't learned enough. That's why.
I believe that us experiencing what we experience, there's a greater purpose to it of
Yes.
all of us experience this. And I think a lot of people get lost in that and they
Yes.
look at it the bad of, oh my God, that person's dying and that person's hurt and that you can look at it as bad or good, but it just is, it just is.
Death
It,
is not bad. No one dies too soon. No one dies too young. No one dies tragically. No one dies unexpectedly. No one dies untimely. Everyone just dies. I love how people go, I can't believe that happened. Or how did that? Oh, he was so healthy. Everybody dies. There's two rules in this world. As long as you follow the rules, you comprehend them, and you follow them, you'll appreciate your life and everyone else's life around you. Rule
right.
number one, people die every day. Rule
Yes.
number two, you can't change rule number one. When it's your time to go, it just is. When the source calls your soul to go home, it
Yeah.
will leave. But depending, it's up to the soul that free will choice, depending upon where you go. You may walk into because when you stand up out of your body, you're going to get the perfect memory of your lifetime here, but you're going to get the perfect memories of all your other lifetimes. And then
Mm,
when you know you've had that many lifetimes and you see that light, you may think to yourself, "Well, if I go in there, I might have to come back again because I've come back so many times." And
mhm.
and maybe you don't want to come back. So a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of them stay here because they don't wanna have to come back and do this all over again, because we know life is not easy. It's not all love and light and rainbows and unicorns. It's
Right.
hard, and when you know that all those lives that you've had were hard, you may not wanna do that again. So they
Mhm.
just stay here as an earthbound spirit.
I was that person. I did not want to come back.
Yeah,
I Well,
it's
and
hard.
I tell people I've done maybe 4 past life regressions, right? I've seen a lot of my past lives. And the biggest part of it was seeing that they were not as nice as I wanted them. And
Right.
the fairy tale that I would have pictured it to be definitely was not what I saw.
We need to
So
stop teaching fairy tales.
so it was actually hard, actually, to know that I was the cause of deaths or I was the cause of murdering people or,
Right.
those great things that you talk about. It didn't make me feel better. It made me feel like shit. It made me feel
Yeah.
like shit to be like, damn, how could I have been so ignorant or how could I have been so mean or how could I have, done this or that? And even to where, I've seen one where I was doing sacrifices and it was like, shit, what
Different
kind of
lives.
person was that? Right.
Right, different
So
lives, different experiences.
I say to it, like, if you want to do it and open those doors, do it and then close them, but it's not going to make you feel better. You're not
Right.
going to open it and see you murdering people and then just be like, that was a great life. No, you're
I
going to be like, shit.
I had an experience. Well, I see spirit all the time. I don't ever not see them. And I was in my room and I see them in the light and stuff like that, but I see them a lot more in the dark. And I was in my bedroom and I was in my computer chair. I turned around, turned off the lights, and kicked my feet up on the bed. I was going to take a nap. As soon as I closed my eyes, I saw a man standing in front of me. Now
Mhm,
he was in the lower realm. He couldn't speak to me. Um, he owned, I mean, they talked to each other telepathy, but he didn't have enough energy to do that, with me because, I'm human. So, but I hear them all the time. They say shit to me all the time. But, so what he did, he wanted I said to him, "Do you wanna cross over?" And he looked at me and he shook his head. And I said, "Why not?" And then that's when he put this boom, he imprinted something on me, and I felt like I was in a dream at that moment. I was like, "Whoa." But I was
mhm,
coherent like this, and I saw him, except I was him, and I was seeing through his eyes,
mhm,
and I saw it was dark out, and I see a man come running across the street, and then I see his right arm come up, and his arm has a gun in it, and he points it at the gun and shoots and kills the man,
mhm,
and I was like, "Oh, shit. You just killed somebody," and then it went away, and then he was back in front of me again. I said, "So you don't wanna go because you feel you murdered somebody?" And he looked at me. I said, "That doesn't make a difference." I said, "Anyone can cross into heaven. You just have to wanna go, but you may have to come back and do this all over again." And he just looked at me and said, and he just knew he didn't wanna go come back and do it again. I said, all right. And I said, it's like a horse with water. I can lead them and tell them where to go and how to get there. But if they don't want to go, they don't want to go. Now, the thing about that is that whole imprint that he put on me is now my memory.
Mm,
So
yeah.
when people come up to me and they say, I want your gift, no, they don't. They want the cool part of my gift,
Right.
but they don't want everything else that comes along with it. They
Right.
just don't. I I when I say I see spirit and all, I don't just ever see just wonderful, like, little pixies. I see everything horrible as
Right.
well, and I
Right.
see them doing horrible things. Do you
Mm,
want that every day of your life that never turns off or goes away? Do you
no.
really want that? Now, I use the best part of it to help other people,
Mm.
but I still gotta deal with all that other shit every single day.
I'm gonna say I commend you because, like I said, I chose not to because I did not want to see people being murdered or how they got killed and those things. And even, to the part where you have to see if someone's molested someone, if someone's done, those kind of things pop up with those people because it's attached to them. And I personally was like, no, that's not what I want.
I I see worse than that sometimes. So I saw
Yeah.
again, I see into the low energy realm, so I see most of that, and I saw these beings. So I know here's another thing people don't know: when you stay here earthbound in that low energy realm, you still have your pain, anger, sorrow, grief, guilt, anguish, all that stuff, but you still actually feel pain. So if another spirit were to walk up to you and smack you, kick you, punch you, or something like that, you still feel it. Now it's a brief thing, but you still feel it. You're not breaking bones, but you still feel the stinging, that part. I saw these beings walking around. If you've ever seen like a murder mystery TV show where they do an outline of somebody who's on the ground, the police draw an outline. I saw these beings that look like outlying beings. So it's just an outline of a being. There was no face or anything, no features, but I saw these squiggly lines going through it, and they were glowing from a white to a yellow to red. When I see something that glows red or makes red, I know that that's a negative energy because, again, I see everything. Uh,
Mm,
and then I saw these beings walking around, walking up the other spirit. I saw one guy, this big, huge one, like 8 foot tall, walks up and grabs this guy by the neck and starts squeezing his neck. And the guy's eyes were basically popping out of his head because it's different there. And,
right.
and and he's choking this guy, and they're punching and kicking the shit out of these spirit, and then they're dragging them off into that deep dark realm of the earthbound, of that low energy realm, so they can keep them basically like prisoners there to collect their energy. It's not hell, it's just not that, but there are just horrible energies there. And
Mm,
then this thing walked up to me. Now I have archangels around me all the time, and I said, "What do you want?" And he said, "You know why I'm here." I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "You're not gonna get anything from me, buddy." I said, "Because if you don't go away, I'm gonna make my family here mojo your ass out of here." And he looked around at me, and then his 2 buddies walked over, and he looked at them, he said, "We can't get anything here." And they turned around and walked away. 'Cause I don't have to, like, I don't have to do any crystals or I don't have to do any of that. I'm protected them from them negative energies all the time because archangels protect me from everything so that
mm,
I can always cross spirit over or do everything else that I need to do. So I
right.
could walk into any what we would call haunted house and nothing happens. I don't get scratched. I get
Mm,
touched by other spirit who want to cross, but these are just not everything there is bad. They just
right.
made a choice for themselves. I see dogs and cats and deer and people and other beings, and
Right.
sometimes they'd come up and touch me, and I tell them where to go and what to do and how to get there. But I'm protected from all negative energy. Regular people aren't. And then when they start going around trying to open up these portals and doing all, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what's coming through. They might be trying to get one person to come through, but you don't know who's standing behind them,
Right.
waiting to go through because they can see that ahead of time. So if you
Right.
don't know what you're doing, don't do it. It's plain
Mm.
and simple. It can be good, but there's a lot of bad stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah, I think one of the things we always talk about is you have to learn how
Yes.
you have to learn from someone, right, who's well educated and has those tools. Not
Yeah,
everybody does. And we always talk about this. I've had a couple other mediums on the show, and we've talked about this of how just really vetting. You need to vet the people that you're going to and really
absolutely.
not just believe all the shit that they say, but really vet them and make sure this is someone who's credible, someone that you learn from them. And then learn the
Absolutely.
protection and learn how to your energy and learn whether it is angels or your ancestors or whoever it is that you're going to work with. Learn who that is, so you're not just, oh, I don't know who's next to me, I don't know who I'm talking to, I don't know who's protecting me. You got to learn all of that stuff, and then
Yeah.
maybe then you can start tapping in. But if you open those doors, then you're kind of like, well, what comes through, and you got to deal with it.
Right. Well, most of the time, and from what I gather from people, uh, they're not working with angels. Angels do big things. Angels don't. You don't need an angel to go get a cup of freaking coffee. You
Right,
don't. You have
right,
spirit guides that are helping to work with you, but angels do big things, big picture things, trying to get the whole world, putting a thought process out there to the people who can change this world to
right,
doing that. They're not
right,
helping you to go to the mall to take 1,000 selfies. If you're doing that, you have a self-esteem problem. Go get it fixed. So,
right.
but yeah, they're just not doing that. But you do have spirit guides, and you have to learn to listen and trust and follow through with what they're telling you to do. But people only want what they want when they want it. They don't wanna do the whole thing. You have to do it all the time. You can't just pick and choose, like people pick and choose to live certain things out of the Bible, but they don't live the rape and murder and pedophilia that's going on in the Bible either. So, yeah, because, yeah, again, those people wanna tell you how to live your life the way they want you to live it and give them 10%. Why do they want you to give them 10%? Because they don't wanna go out and get a real job, that's why. Don't listen to them. They have nothing good to say, but they just wanna control you. But yeah, you don't have angels walking around helping you all day long, and and they're just not for that. They're
Mm-hmm.
just not. They're just for bigger things. But you have to learn to listen to those spirit, and you have to learn the difference between what spirit are actually good ones and which ones are not. Especially
Right.
when you're meditating, because when you open up, when you're open, you're not opening yourself up to a can of chicken noodle soup. You're opening yourself up to the possible worst can of worms you've ever had in your life. And you
Mm,
gotta be you have to understand that before even try doing it. When I
right.
found out that I was this woman said, "You're a medium untrained," I eventually found, another woman who had an intuition group, but she put a group together. It was all professional mediums, and those ones who are the ones who trained me how to do what I do, and they trained me for about a year, and then, but I also found out I could channel through them, and, when I can only do that with mediums, but very, very, very strong empaths, but they got to be pretty
Mm,
strong. But I found out I could channel with them. Every time I channeled with them, archangels came through, and
mm,
Jesus came through a bunch of times, and then a couple of times, God came through. When He comes into the room, you know who the fuck is in the room because everybody's hair is standing on end, and you can just feel that beautiful love energy. But
mm,
you gotta train yourself. You gotta figure it out. You can't just go in and go, "Oh, I'm just gonna try this. Oh,
mm,
let me go get a pendulum, but let me go get some tarot cards, or let me go get a Ouija board." No.
mhm.
No, figure out the right way and get some training before you do it. It was a year and a half before I did my first professional reading, and I didn't even know I was going to do readings for people. I told him whatever you want me to do, I'll do, and that's what he guided me to do, but he's guiding me to do what I'm doing here, which is trying to teach people what's really real and what's bullshit
Right,
because he wants us to get away from the Bible because he knows the Bible's not real. It's a book of stories. That's all it is. So I mean, really, do you think
right.
somebody really lived in the belly of a whale? Really? No. Come on. You know?
I and we touch religion a lot, and I actually am going to do a podcast because I had put a post on my page, and it just sparks. You talk about religion, it just sparks a bunch of a bunch of Bible thumpers, and that's what
Oh
I
yeah.
call. You know,
Oh, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. If it rained for 40 days and 40 nights nonstop, there
mm,
would be so much moisture in the air you
right.
would drown. You wouldn't need the big washout of everything. You would drown.
Well,
And
most
how
of
come?
these places
And how?
wouldn't have even lasted a couple of days with all that rain.
Ri
Nevertheless, 40
right,
days.
and how is it that, Noah, how is it that he lived to be 965 years old? How come no one else does?
Right, right.
Did but they never mention his kids living to be 965 years old, and then when they cleared everything out, eventually people came back. Oh, and Noah's daughters got married to 2 men. Well,
Who
if
were they?
everything got killed in
Who
the
were those people?
washout, who are they and where did they come from?
Yeah, I never
No.
liked the stories in there. First of all, you start off with Adam and Eve, who has two sons, and then how the hell are they populating with their mom? And so we start the Bible with incest,
Correct. Correct.
and then
No.
Noah and his kids, right? The whole world ends. We start again. There's one girl, like
Right.
so. We are again incest to repopulate, right?
Right. Or the Immaculate Conception. No.
I don't believe in that. I believe in you need to
No.
spark male and female together to create
Yes.
life. And
Yes.
in that
We
moment is where the creation happens and the soul attaches. But there's so many things even with that. We know that the soul can
yes.
change its mind, during that process. That's why there's miscarriages and stillbirths and things like that,
Correct,
right?
correct. That's what I tell people because the soul does not come into the is not sitting in your mom's belly. The soul comes into the body when the body is being born. And then
Mhm.
when it sees that body is not going to make it, it leaves. And then that's why you have a stillborn child. But people
Even
want to, oh, I
even
got to bury my child. That's not your child. That's just
it's
that's just a shell.
It's because we're not taught a lot of these things,
Correct.
so we assume what we want, what we know. I know for me, I saw a part when I was in the womb, but not the whole time. So there was a piece of it where I did not want to be here. So
Right.
even when I was like I did not want to. So I didn't bond with my mom. Me and my mom have a crazy. We don't have a relationship.
Sure.
I didn't bond with her because I didn't want to be there. So I was still holding on what I call is that space, that universe energy that
Well, you had a new lesson to learn and you didn't like it from the beginning.
didn't want to come back to the
Yeah.
very last end. I was like, I don't want to go. So
Yeah.
I saw that part. But again, we assume we know everything about that. But the only thing I've come into those understanding that part is doing the mediumship and dealing with people with grief.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
even that part of grief, you don't understand it. There's so much blame, guilt, and things you got to work through to understand. There's so much outside of
Right.
us that we don't know. We're assuming and we're doing this perception of what we think is going on, but there's bigger things. We're not in control of the souls just because we can
Right.
house them and birth them.
We also assume that someone who is committing suicide hates everything and hates the world. Now,
Right,
they may have those feelings in there,
right,
but the reason they are committing suicide is because when that soul is called to go home, it will leave and it will make the body feel a certain way because it may be in a body that's working perfectly and it may do make the body do something in order to get out of here. But also in another way where you don't even realize it because it tells you to get up and go to the mall today, and you get in your car and you go to the mall and get in a car accident and die. That way we call it an accident. This way we call it suicide.
right,
Everything is just blame. The real the but they want to blame God for giving them cancer. Again, the soul is here to learn about cancer. You
right,
get it so it experiences what it's like to go through it and learn two things. One, you can sit around with your thumb up your ass all day long and do nothing about it, or be proactive about it. But
right,
either way, you're
right,
still going to die. No
right.
one survives cancer. You just continue to live until
Mhm.
you don't. It's that simple. You're
Right,
learning about everything. You're learning about a broken leg or you're learning to if you're driving down the street in your car and you see a car in front of you and you say, "Oh, I want to pass that car." And then you get that gut feeling says, "Don't pass the car." That's your soul telling you to not do it. But how do you know when they're not listening because you're in the hospital talking to your friend who just got into a car accident and they
right,
tell you 3 words. They say, "You know what? I saw that car in front of me." And then they say 3 words. "I just knew." When they say, "I just knew," that means their soul was telling them not to do it, and they
yeah,
talk themselves out of it because they learned how to have, fear and they learned how to have ego from everybody else. Learn to let that shit go. When you have that internal compass that's trying to guide you,
mm,
listen what it says, trust what it says, and then follow through what it says, but you have to do it every single time, and when you do that, you'll find out your life is much easier to live.
Definitely. Definitely. I've definitely been the hard-headed one and go against, and every time I go against that, what they call gut feeling, it's
Right.
always bit me in the ass. And I'm just like, man, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
I knew it. I knew it. Yeah, it's that gut feeling that they call it intuition, they call it gut feel it is your soul. It's that internal compass that's trying to guide you, but if you're not gonna listen,
Right.
and then if you keep not listening,
Mm-hmm.
then you will not get into the places of where you're meant to be in your life to
Right.
fulfill the purpose, and
Right.
that's what brings you back again. And you'll
Right.
do it over and over and over again until you get it right and he's satisfied with it.
Right. There's definitely I mean, we're here. It took me a long time from being a victim. This life was harsh. From being a victim in this life to understanding that the contrast is there for a reason, and it
Yes, to
is
learn.
what you do with it. A lot of shit can happen to you, but what do you do with it?
Right,
What?
what do you do with it? You can sit around with your thumb up your ass all day long and do
Yes,
nothing with it,
yes.
or you do
Or
something with it.
or you can. And I chose to finally change. That's
Yes.
where I'm at now, and it's been like about 5 years that I've been in this path of just figuring things out, opening up in different ways,
Yeah,
and learning more about the universe and just myself,
yeah.
um, which has been phenomenal.
Luckily you didn't have that change too late in your life
Yeah. Well, I mean,
because
I was on that road. I was on that road because, again, we all get those hints of we need to
yes,
change, we need to do. And a lot of
absolutely.
times we're lost. We don't know what that means. We're not open enough to even pay attention that we have a higher self, or whether you say your soul, your higher self is speaking to you, or those just nudges, whether
Yeah,
it's God speaking to you. And a lot of times we're just that ego is running
right.
so and takes over that we're just stuck in that,
Right,
right?
because we're stuck in this meat suit, and that meat suit is an automatic filter of that, and
Right.
it keeps that shit away from you, and
Yeah.
again, you what happens is you wake up in the world in a baby body, and you're going, "What?" And your mom and dad's going, "I'm your mom and dad," and you're going, "I don't know who the fuck you are, but okay," and then they raise you, and they teach you the ways of the world and everything else around you, and that's
Right.
all bullshit. It's up
Right.
to you to wake up at some point and go, "This is all bullshit."
Yeah.
I don't have to they tell me to eat bacon one day, and they tell me not to eat bacon the next day.
That
You know what
part.
they need to do? They need to shut the hell up, but we need to stop
That part.
listening. That's what we have
That
to do.
part.
Yeah.
I got to a point where my soul was tired. So
Yeah.
I felt the tiredness of my soul.
It's been here a bunch of times.
And I was just like, there has to be something else to
Right,
life, than this,
right.
right? And I didn't know what that looked like. Again, it took a whole nother year before I actually ended up being introduced to tarot. Um,
Look like a red pill is what it looked like.
kind of was that
And it's a
matrix. You want the
it's
red
a
pill or
it
the blue
and
pill? Which one?
that's a hard swallow too.
And like and then I kind of jumped in head on with tarot, and I have to say I have a beautiful team that kind of has always had my back, and always has shown me what I need to see. And every experience I've had, whether it be not so nice, energies, I needed to experience those. There was a reason and a purpose to experience that and
Correct.
understand what it feels like to be in those. So then I can understand my clients and I can work with people better. So everything that I've experienced going through my spiritual path has been better to equip me to help my clients and my people and have
Sure.
these conversations.
Sure,
And then also,
it gives them a sense of knowing that you're going through it too.
right. But then
You're
also
relating.
to go through the truth in what's fiction and understand all
Right,
the bullshit that's out there, and
right.
to have these conversations where it's like, no, there's a lot of fake. There's a lot of these fake people that say that they're one thing and they tell you everything you want to hear and
Yeah.
just to get you to come back next week.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, I don't that's 2 things I don't do. I don't tell anybody what they wanna hear. I always tell them,
right,
"You may not get the reading you want, but you will get the reading you need." I also don't have them I know another guy who says he's an angel guy, he ain't shit, and, I'm not judging him, he's just that's the way he is because he chooses to be that way. Anyone is the way they are because they choose to be that way. You
right,
can choose differently. But he has them come back over and over and over again, and he tells this other friend of mine, he's, "Oh, I'm making this I'm $500 a day." Well, because you're not really helping them.
right,
You're helping yourself to what they have. You are the leech. That's what you are.
Yeah.
We're not meant to give a reading and then have you come back a week later. I'm meant to give you a reading so that you can now you have a set path. Now you go live it and get it figured out. And once you get about 6 months or 9 months into it, then you could come back to me. But I don't want you coming back to me and over again because if I'm not here to hold your hand.
Right.
I'm not your fortune teller. I'm here to give you some peace of mind and clarity, but I'm here to give you direction. You have to live that direction. You have to go through it. I tell people all the time, well, oh, when's Mr. Right coming? I say, let me find out. Oh, well, you have 3 Mr. Wrongs that are coming first. I said, but you have to go through all 3 of them in order to find Mr. Right. You can't hop, skip, and jump over life. You have to live it. People just don't get that. Again, they think the am I
Mhm.
ever going to fall in love again? You will if you want to, but you got to be proactive and get. You don't just get a job thrown at you. You go out and find it. You got to go out and find love. You have to go out and find life. That's what
Right.
you have to do. You have to live it. You can't just go, oh, everything's just going to happen wonderful to me and I'm going to have everything. No. But
No.
even the people who do get that stuff, that's their path to live. Winning the lottery is not that about $1 million. It's about what you do with it. Now, if you want to take all that money and spend it all on yourself and then go broke, because most of them do, because they don't know how to, because they've never had a life with all that kind of money and they don't know how to spend it all or how
Right.
to keep it. That's
Right.
on them. And then God will just bring you back again because you fucked it up again. But it's about what you do with it. And maybe you keep some of it for yourself and you help a whole bunch of other people and you just do good things and you don't walk around telling everybody because you don't have to. And you
Right.
do it for the reason of just because.
Right.
That's what will get you your golden ticket to go home and stay home like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Right. Just choose to be a better person every day.
Right.
Choose to be a kind person. That's all you have to do. It's very simple. Very
Right. I mean, I'll give an example of something. Again, I don't go out and tell everybody, "Hey, guess what I did the other day?" But
right.
I, I was at a Dollar Tree because I love Dollar Tree because yeah, even though everything's at 125 now, whatever. So I go in, I come out, and I see this guy walking in the parking lot towards me, and this guy is having a hard time walking, and and I look at him, he locks eyes with me, and then I see him go towards the other side of the sidewalk. I said, "Hey, how are you?" And he stops and he goes, "Oh, I'm good. How are you doing?" I said, "Are you okay? Are you going in the store? Do you need are you're all right?" He said, I'm about to get my knees done." And I was talking to him and right up close. He said, I'm having a hard time walking." I said, "Where do you got to go?" He goes, I want to go in Dollar Tree." He said, "But I got to go up that ramp over there because I can't get up the curb." I said, "Oh, you're getting up the curb today?" And I turned around and I got next to him. I took his arm and I walked him over to the curb. I walked him up. I got him a cart. I said, "Do you need help getting your stuff?" He said, "No, I'm good." I said, "All right, I'll wait for you." He said, "For what?" I said, "Well, you got to get down from the curb."
Mhm.
And then he came back out. I took his cart down. I walked him over to his car. I loaded up his car and I set him on his way. I mean, I just did it yesterday. Yeah, my wife and I went to Walmart and there was a lady sitting in one of those carts in there. And we were in the, pet aisle getting the and we were just talking, and we turned around, and she's like she's getting up out, and she's like, "Oh, oh," and I was like I looked at her, I said, "She's in a lot of pain." We're like, "Oh my god." And
Right.
I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "Yeah, I I need to get that bag of food." I said, "Oh, which one?" She said, "That one right there." I said, "Oh, this one?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." Put it in her cart. I said, "Do you need help sitting down?" She said, "No, I'm good." I said, "Okay." And then she just said, "Thank you."
Right.
That's fulfilling your purpose.
Mhm.
And if you listen, trust, and follow through, if you learn your lessons quickly, and lessons are very simple. I have a towel in front of me. If I pick it up and I put it down, that's a lesson. If I pick it up and drop it, oh shit, that's not a good lesson or a bad lesson. It's just a lesson. It just depends on what you do afterwards. Yeah, I grip it a little bit tighter. Next time I won't drop it. If you walk through a door and there's a nail in the floor and you trip over the nail, how do you learn the lesson? You go get a hammer and you bang that nail back in. Not everybody does that. They trip 4 or 5 times. They trip throughout their entire lives. If you would get those lessons done quicker, you would get to those places that you're going to have those moments where you're going to be fulfilling your purpose sooner, and then you would get out of here quicker. But
Mhm.
people don't pay attention. You just when you see those types of things, that if it's being presented to you, not like a test, but not to see what you'll do.
Right.
Do
Right.
the right thing.
Yeah.
If you
That's
see somebody walking through a doorway, don't you know, they all do this, they go, "Oh." You see them moving because they spend so much energy trying to avoid each other and
right.
actually say I always walk up and say, "Hello," and I say it loudly, I go, "Hello," and I go, "Oh, hi." I go, "Hi, how are you doing?"
Right.
"Good, how are you?" "Good." You never know how much you could change somebody's outlook or their attitude that day just
Right.
by saying hello, just by engaging with them, because we're all meant to do this together. If we weren't meant to go do this together, there wouldn't be 7.5 billion of us, there'd be 1.
Right.
We're all here to do this together. We're here to figure this out together. We're
Right.
not meant to s we're not meant to separate or segregate ourselves from ourselves. Just because we look a little bit different does not mean we are different. We are all exactly the same. We put on our pants the same way. We put on a dress, or we eat breakfast, we go to lunch, we go to dinner. We do a lot of the same things all the time. You'd be surprised how much you actually do out there, but you're not gonna figure that out unless you go out and find your people. We got to find each other and do things together and get this thing figured out, because right now we should not be pointing rockets at each other. We're not meant to do that. We're meant to help each other. We're just
Right.
not getting it right. You know what?
Right.
Go out and do something right. Go out and do something good. Look in the mirror every day and tell yourself, I mean, I do affirmations or not, but go out and go look in the mirror. Tell yourself, I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to do good things. I'm going
Mhm.
to help as many people as I can, not just helping myself, but help them to get on a path. So maybe it'll change them. So maybe they'll do the same thing. We call it paying it forward. We're just helping each other just for the sake of helping. Why can't we just do that? Why do we have to hate on each other because you have a different political view? They want you to hate each other because behind closed doors, they love each other because they all know that they have power and control over us. We need to stop listening to them.
Oh, definitely.
Your president is not going to save the world. I mean, how many presidencies have you lived through? Because you're going to live through another one. What do they really do for you?
Mhm.
Nothing, except control you and have power over you and make you pay for everything that they don't have to pay for because they get it free, and you don't.
Right.
There
That
you
is
go.
actually a whole nother podcast, you guys.
You're you're welcome.
We can go on and on about that. Definitely can.
Yeah, it's
But I
bullshit, that's why.
agree with you with the just getting out of our own way and
Yes.
coming together. And, I'm a big person of talking about hate
Ugh,
and that word and how people use it and justify it. Of course, regardless to your religion, your belief system, I don't care what it is. I don't think there's anything to where you should hate someone. You can dislike stuff all day. You can look at
right.
like, you know what? I don't like how that makes me feel. I don't like how that situation is going. But to get to the point of hate, that's a whole nother level of
Yeah.
energy that you're toting around and call
Yeah,
yourself a religious person. Like, I'm like, they don't go together. You can't be a loving person and then be like, yeah, I hate this person. Like,
absolutely.
you,
And I see those people all the time, they, "Oh, love and light and rainbows and unicorns," and then they turn around. Yeah, I mean, I'm an old person. I dislike crapping my pants, but I'm not walking around going, "Fuck, ah!" I just go change my pants and clean up, whatever. Get over it. If
yeah,
you spill your cup of coffee, it's not the end of the world. Clean it up and go get another one. And maybe next time grip the cup or pay attention a little bit more so you don't spill it. That's all it is.
right. A lot of even my viewership changed when I stopped believing in a lot of different things. I had saw negative energy different. I had looked at demons totally different. And I was just like, I don't want to be in this place where everything has to be either or. It has to be
Right.
the devil made me do it, or it has to be a demon is
Right.
attacking
Yeah.
me, or it has to be somebody putting witchcraft on me and all this other shit. And it was just like, we create so much of this
Right.
that it's not
Right.
anything but ourselves because you can create energy and people don't realize how we can create our
Right.
demons. We can
Right.
create all
Well,
of
we use that term demons, but because we use that because they are in spirit. There's no demons. These are just negative energies, just horrible. There's no devil.
Right.
There's no one guy walking around in charge of everybody. Just like you are in charge of your own feelings, they are in charge of themselves. It's just not
Yeah.
but the again, religion and those people, they want to tell you how to
Yeah.
live your life the way they want you to live and give them 10%. They want you to believe that there's this horrible man there who's in control of everybody and he's going to
After
torture
us.
the shit out. God doesn't no, it doesn't work that way. I mean, I see them doing horrible things, but is everybody there horrible?
Right.
No. They just
Right.
made a choice to be where they are, and I see thousands of them. You know what I see them doing all the time? Even in the earthbound realm as well as heaven, I see them making out all the time. They're making out, they're having sex, they're doing everything because you still can. It's
Right.
different, but you still can. It's the same thing as here. It's an
Right.
energy transfer. Even though because and people say, "How can they be making out?" Well, you have pain, anger, sorrow, grief, guilt, and anguish, and all that stuff, and
Mm.
you're making out. Why would you think they can't? They're still themselves. They're just different, but
I believe in
they're
different
still
realms,
doing it. Oh
and I
yeah.
and I think that people think that this realm is it. This realm is all that there is,
Oh,
and
they're oh
nothing outside of this, right?
no, yeah.
And I think that's where the mind is like can't comprehend because you just think this is it, and if you can't see it and touch it here, then it doesn't exist. But it's like we're connected in all of these different places. We're not there because we're not meant to be there. We're meant to be here.
I have been to the deep dark realm again.
Mm,
So archangels with me. They want me to do certain things, and they wanted me to meditate and go in there because they wanted me to. At first, they told me, "We want you to cross spirit over." And I said, "Okay, try to go down there and cross them over." So I did. I went in, I walked in. Now, I saw things that the only thing I can equate it to, I can't describe it. So I'll just say monster. Okay. And this is horrible things. Now, I've seen some other beings that look like monsters, but they're not monsters. It's just that's what they look like where they come from. So,
mm,
but these things were horrible. And as soon as I walked in, they were like, "What do you want? What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I came to cross some spirit over. Get the fuck out of here. We don't want you in here." And I said, "You may not want me in here, but God wants, we don't want to fucking talk about him. Fuck him." They hate him, right? So, but
mm,
they're all children of him. But they're just angry. So, and I said, "Well, I'm here to cross spirit over." And they're talking to me and we're having this big long conversation for like 20 minutes. So, and then I try to go through and I saw one standing there with a smaller one holding onto its leg, like peeking around, hiding behind. It was a child, but it was a
mm,
child of one of these things. And I was like, because when you cross over, when you leave your body, if you remain in the earthbound realm or this low energy realm,
mm,
whatever age you die, you remain that age. You don't
mm,
grow up. If you cross over into heaven, your soul will eventually grow up into what we would refer to as being like 30 years old when you're just feeling just wonderful. So these things were there, and so I just went through, but I couldn't get anything to cross over. But when I came back, the reason why they sent me there is because they wanted me to be able to deal with those things. Because
mm.
if I can talk to them and I can deal with them, people are nothing to deal with. No one intimidates me. I don't get scared from anything. I just
Yeah.
don't. If people can yell and scream at me all day long. I've had a lady I was doing readings in a mall, and, she came up, and I was all these people were waiting to get a reading, and she walks up, and this Amish lady, and she says to me, looks at my sign, she said and I'm doing a reading, and she says, "Are you talking to spirit?" I said, "Oh, yes, I am." "So you're speaking with spirit, you're communicating with spirit?" I said, "Yes, I am." And then she stood up and she went, "You're speaking to the devil!" And I said, "No, I'm not speaking to the" in this voice, I said, "No, I'm not speaking to the devil because there's no such thing as a devil. There's no such thing as Satan. There is a Lucifer. He's an archangel. He's not a bad angel. There's no fallen angels because they don't fall from God's grace. It is people and other beings that are living in bodies, when if they are a piece of shit and they choose to remain a piece of shit and they don't go cross over, then they remain, and that's how they turn into what we would call demons and all that stuff. But they're not bad. But they're just there. I said, but there's no hell, there's no purgatory, there's none of that stuff. You either
Right.
cross over into light or you don't. And as I'm going on, she's getting redder and redder and redder, and she
Sure.
starts stomp, and everybody else is looking at her like, "What the fuck?" And I said, "So what can I help you with?" She said, "Nothing." And she stomped her feet and walked away. And I said, "All right, well, have a great day."
Right.
Now, the thing about that is being spiritual is you have the ability to make choices.
Mm,
And I chose not to get angry over her anger
right.
because I don't have to. And anybody can do that. You don't
Right.
have to have what we call nowadays a trigger. You can learn to let it go.
Right.
Just
Right.
because they want a reaction out of you, my reaction is, "Are you done?"
Right.
"Well, yeah, yeah, okay." And then go on about my way. "You don't have anything to say?"
Right.
"No, I don't.
For what?
I don't need to. That's your anger. That's not mine. And I
Right.
can't control your anger. That's up to you to do to make a change to do that." And then
Right.
after she walked away, I just turned around and said, "Okay, who's next?" That's it.
Right. I always say that, and I'm glad that you gave that story, because I say that the same as there's never this thing about trying to convert people over to what I believe,
Right.
right? It's I'm just here speaking my truth, and
Giving them
whoever listens,
options.
listens, right?
Yes, giving them options to do.
So if you get mad off something I say, has nothing to do with me.
Right,
Nothing.
because I never apologize to anybody for me being me, because if I say something that's gonna offend you, I don't care. Because
Right.
you'll turn around and walk away, and then I don't have to deal with you anymore. I'll move on to the next person who wants help. Because
Right.
I get people who come for readings, they say they want help, but then they fight you against it the entire way. You know what I
Yep.
do? I stand up, I give them their money back, and I say, "Have a great day."
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Because
Because
you're not
I'm
telling
not
them what they want to hear.
right, because they wanna hear yeah, I've had a lady who did that one time, and she come up and she said, "You're not telling me what I wanna hear." I said, "Because what you wanna hear is fantasy. And that fantasy is not going to
Right.
get you through your life.
Right.
Wake up."
Right. This brings a memory when I was doing mediumship, and I had a father come through. And one of the daughters I was on a live, and I was talking to her, just telling her, things he was giving me. And then she said, my sister has a question. And before they typed anything, I heard kiss ass. And I was like, why is he calling her a kiss ass? And she started cracking up laughing because she was a
Ah,
suck up, So I think people, there's so much more to this that people don't realize. It's very real. It's very
yeah,
true. They're around us, and not in the sense of, like our spirit and soul is connected to so much more, right? So much more than what we can
yes.
even comprehend
But
of
everybody
what's
just
going
wants
on.
their secret special message from the other side because they
Right?
think they
Everybody
have a
wants to
secret.
hear, I'm so proud of you. You were the
Yeah,
best child ever. And it's like, no, that's
nope,
not how they feel. You
nope.
know, I've
People
had
don't
people
realize
come
that their
through.
mom and dads may not even be around them because if you're walking
Yes.
around being a piece of shit, they are in a positive realm. They don't
Yeah.
wanna be around your negativity. So that
Yeah.
just because they died and you want them to come back and tell you I had a lady who said, she said, I want a message from my mother-in-law." And I said, "Didn't you tell me that your mother-in-law lived with you for, like, 16 years?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Did you talk to her all the time?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Then why do you feel you need one more message? Didn't you get enough out of that 16 years?"
Right.
And she was like, "I never thought of that." I said, "Right, because you're fixated on your own egotistical bullshit, because
Yeah.
you want a message from the other side, from a place of which you are not meant to be at yet."
Right.
They wanna hear that, "Oh, maybe they'll tell me I hid the money in the walls."
Right.
Spirit don't care about money because they don't have money.
Mm-mm.
They want you to feel love and express love.
Right.
That's what they want you to do. They want you
Right.
to let all that other shit go, but people again, when you have these, people out there, these other practitioners telling them all about their their, uh soulmate or the rebranding of it, the twin flame, it's a soulmate, and so you could have many soulmates in your life because you're
Yeah.
connected to every soul, so why would you think it's only one, you dipshit? It's
Right.
not.
Well, you know what? I was somebody who got sucked into the twin flame stuff. I talk about it all the time. I got
Don't
sucked
do it,
into
man.
it. I got sucked into it early on, and it was again it goes back to the same thing of what I was saying, that when you first come in, you don't realize you're trying to find somewhere to belong. You're
Right, you're
trying
trying
to
to
make
find your
sense of
place
things.
in life, yes,
Right. And
and
so
amongst each other.
it sounds good and it makes a lot of sense, right? It could, but one of the things that, again, I was put into a place to experience it and see it so I could learn and understand, right?
Sure.
And one of the things I realized, all the people coming to me for these twin flame readings were like people that were in these abusive,
Desperate,
crazy
desperate. Yeah.
relationships. The person had blocked them on all social media and
Right.
told them to leave them alone. They were stalking the people.
Right.
And I was like, how is this ultimate God send divine masculine that you guys are talking about when you guys are over here stalking people and doing crazy shit, or this person's beating the shit out of you and you think that's your person? That's
That's love?
the God
Really?
send.
Oh,
So,
and it took you 10 years to get away from it?
and
Because
honey,
why? Because we teach children at a young age about princes and
right,
princesses.
right,
That's
right,
why.
right.
That's why. We
Yeah,
put this delusional thought into their head that you're gonna find the perfect person. Well, no one out there is perfect. You may
no,
find someone who's perfect for you,
right.
but a relationship is about your baggage and my baggage, and
Yep,
us deciding together we're gonna carry this baggage together. I'm
right,
not gonna carry my baggage and all of yours while you tell me how to live my life and be a piece of shit to me. It's not
right,
that's not the way it is. That's a
right.
controlling piece of shit. Get rid of them.
Yeah. So yeah, so I learned I don't want to say hard way, but I learned being in it and experience it to
You
understand
learn.
those lessons and understand how powerful, yes, your connections can feel crazy and amazing and all of those things.
Right.
And so many things you don't understand until it's time for you to understand.
Right. And then when you have to understand it, you're like, "Oh shit.
Right.
It's
When I
more
when
than
I
I thought it
got past
was."
what and this was in 2022 is when spirit really had like the harsh reality come in for me. And I really went through this rebranding of myself and what I
You got
believe.
a spiritual punch in the face.
Yeah, yeah. People call it ego death, dark night of the soul, whatever the hell you want to say. But I
Yeah,
went
yeah,
through
yeah.
a part of me, and those belief systems had to die, had to go away, right?
You had to learn to
And I
let it
had to
go.
look at things. And so I came into this place of that real, all of us connection, the oneness. And once you get into there, you can't there's no way to believe in the twin flame no more. There's no
Right,
way to hold on to the one soulmate because you see the connection with all. And if you're
right,
like, well, if I'm connected to all, yeah, there's more people that I love that are, that I care for that are a little bit more close to me, but we're still all connected.
yes,
So when you step into that realm, it changes everything. It
everything.
changes everything for
You
you.
look at the world differently. You look at everybody differently.
Easily. And then you're no longer trying to find your place. You're no
Right,
longer trying
you're
to
not
find where you belong.
you're not wearing the right shoes or the right hat or the right shirt for
Right?
everybody else. You might still be
Right.
wearing it, but you might just be wearing it for yourself. I ride
Yep.
motorcycles. I have a Harley Davidson, but I've had all kinds of motorcycles because I just like motorcycles. Now, that whole ego death doesn't mean because I'm spiritual, I can't do that. I still live in this world and I still want to enjoy myself, but I
Right.
don't give a shit. I don't give a shit when I'm riding down the road who does the motorcycle wave to me or doesn't. I don't get offended by it. I don't take it personal. I just go out and ride my bike because I want to enjoy myself.
Right.
And I have to do that. I have to get away from this sometimes because if I don't, man, it's a lot, you know? I mean, you see as many spirits as I do every day, you better have a fucking sense of humor. So, um, so, yeah, you still have to live life here. That
Right.
doesn't mean you have to get rid of all your worldly possessions. You
Right.
just have to get rid of all the shit that doesn't mean anything because
Right.
the true value in this world is us. That
Mm.
motorcycle has no value in it unless I have it or I own it. Money. I mean,
Mm.
we base our whole value on paper and rocks, people. Paper and rocks, money, dollar bills and gold and silver and and diamonds because they're also rocks. We bet, but that stuff has no value, no worth until it's in your hands. It could
Mhm.
you could have rocks in your front yard and you could have diamonds in your yard and they're worth the same thing until we put a value on it. But and why
Right.
what's that mean? If we're putting the value on it, then where's the true value? It's us. We have
Yeah.
to get back to knowing we are the value in this world, not everything else.
Right. Right.
Once you
That's
do that, I mean, Jesus was here basically to teach us that we could all live as free men and women. We could share everything and take care of everybody in the world. We could share everything in the world. I could go out and get a Porsche, but you could go out and get a Porsche. But everybody could have a Porsche, if you could fit into it. I can't fit into it, but we could all have that Porsche. We could all put all the cool little doodads all over it, so everybody could have it. And then once we see everybody has the same exact thing, then you'll know at that point that you don't
Mm,
have to prove anything to anyone else. We're all
mm,
the same. We're all equal. So once we learn that, what will we all know at that point?
yeah.
That that we're all equal. No one's better than anybody else, and then our wants and needs will change at that point. And all this is possible. I know it sounds like a big thing, but it's possible.
Mm,
But we have to do it. We have to
mm,
stop arguing about doing it and just do it. That's it.
definitely. Well, this is why, and I will definitely have the link for your podcast so they could go check you out. But this is why we have these conversations,
Right.
is to bring it to the table and talk about it, because it is, if we could get past the bullshit of forever, we can get to the real stuff that we
Yeah,
should be
let's
doing.
let's sit at that table together. Let's stop getting to the point where some people are sitting at the table while the rest of us are under it.
Right, right. I wanted to
Just
ask you
came up
real
with that.
quick, put it on a t-shirt. I wanted to ask you if you could think of what are some of your biggest challenges of being someone who communicates with spirits and angels, especially when it comes to like this. We talked some stories about the skeptics, like the lady who came in, but what are some of your biggest challenges that you face?
Um, Getting people to wake up. Getting getting people to wake up to their own drama, to their own bullshit, instead of just, like here's a big another reading I did. A woman came up to me, her and her mom, and they sat down and their mom, and I said, I can only do one person at a time. She said, I just want to sit here and observe. She said, we heard you on a podcast and we wanted to come here because I brought my daughter here because my daughter needs to hear you. I
Mm,
said, oh, because I'm going to tell your daughter the truth, don't you? And she said, yes. And I said, okay. And then her daughter sat in front of me. I said, so what do you have for me? Because I always explain to them, I always tell them, my spiel at the beginning, I say, I can only tell the truth one way. I can't tell it 50 ways until one way suits you. Meaning,
mm,
if you ask me a question, I get you the answer. That's the answer. If you don't like the answer, well, that's because you don't like the truth. That's your fucking problem, not mine. And I communicate with archangels, not men with wings and shields and swords, but they're here to help us. But you don't have angels walking around. She said, that's what I want to know. I said, what? I said,
all right, you guys, that is it. And until next time, you guys, bye.
bye.